Welcome back to the world of inspirational women in history. We're going to learn about many wonderful, inspiring, and life changing women. And remember, we're doing a weekly series all year, which each week we're going to learn about three amazing women. All right, you ready? So, for those of you who haven't met me, my name is Miss Bree, educator, farmer, illustrator, singer, and very proud grammar nerd. Thank you. So welcome to the farm school. Let's get going. First up is Madam C.J. Walker. I love her. She's an amazing lady. Madam C.J. Walker was born Sarah Breedlove in 1867 on a Louisiana plantation, only 2 years after the end of the Civil War. Her parents had been enslaved. She was the first in her family born into freedom. But freedom did not mean ease. By the age of 7, both of her parents had died. She was sent to live with her older sister and brother-in-law, where she endured poverty and hardship. At 14, she married to escape an abusive household. By 20, she was widowed with a young daughter to support. She worked as a laundress, earning barely more than $1 a day. And at one point, she began suffering from severe scalp infections and hair loss, a common problem due to poor nutrition, harsh chemicals, and a lack of indoor plumbing at the time. But instead of accepting it, she began experimenting with treatments. She believed that improvement was possible, and that belief would change her life and thousands of others. Sarah developed her own hair care formula and began selling it door to door. After remarrying and taking the name Madam C.J. Walker, she rebranded herself as a businesswoman. She didn't just sell products, she built a system. The Walker system included her hair grower product, scalp preparation techniques, and the use of heated combs. But more importantly, she trained other black women to become sales agents, known as, quote, Walker agents. At a time when black women were largely limited to domestic labor, Madam Walker created a path to financial independence. By the time of her death, she had trained and employed over 40,000 women across the United States, Central America, and the Caribbean. Her Indianapolis headquarters included a factory, laboratory, and a beauty school. She became widely recognized as the first female self-made millionaire in America, but wealth was never her only goal. Madam C.J. Walker believed that success meant responsibility. She donated generously to causes that supported racial justice and education. She contributed $5,000 to the NAACP's anti-lynching fund, the largest single donation the organization had ever received at the time. She funded scholarships, supported the Tuskegee Institute, contributed to orphanages, and advocated publicly for federal anti-lynching legislation. She even visited the White House to petition President Woodrow Wilson for civil rights protections. Her mansion, Villa Luaro in New York, was designed by one of the first licensed black architects in the United States. It stood not just as a home, but as a symbol of black excellence and possibility. When she died in 1919, she left behind not only a thriving company, but a legacy of empowerment. Madam C.J. Walker proved that economic power could be a tool for social change. She rose from poverty and lifted thousands with her. Next up, we have Cleopatra VII. Now, Cleopatra VII was born in 69 BC into the Ptolemaic dynasty, a Greek royal family that ruled Egypt after the death of Alexander the Great. Although she ruled Egypt, she was ethnically Macedonian Greek. Her birth name was Cleopatra Philopator, and unlike many of her ancestors, she actually learned to speak Egyptian. along with at least eight other languages. Ancient writers like Plutarch emphasized that her intelligence and charisma were more striking than her physical appearance. When her father died, Cleopatra became queen at just 18 years old. As tradition required, she co ruled with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII, who was also technically her husband, but power sharing in royal families was rarely peaceful. Soon, a civil war broke out between the siblings, and Cleopatra was forced into exile. But she wasn't finished. Cleopatra understood something crucial. Egypt's future depended on Rome. When Roman general Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt, Cleopatra famously had herself smuggled into his palace. According to legend, she was wrapped in a carpet. Whether myth or fact, the story symbolizes her boldness. She formed both a political and romantic alliance with Caesar. Together, they defeated her brother's forces. Cleopatra regained her throne and later gave birth to Caesar's son, Caesarion. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BC, Cleopatra aligned herself with another powerful Roman leader, Mark Antony. Their partnership was strategic, aimed at preserving Egypt's independence from Rome's growing power. But Rome was changing. Octavian, the future Emperor Augustus, saw Cleopatra and Antony as threats. Their combined forces were defeated at the Battle of Actium in 31 BC. The world was shifting, and Egypt stood at the center of it. After their defeat, Antony died. Cleopatra, facing capture by Octavian, refused to be paraded through Rome as a conquered queen. In 30 BC, she died. Traditionally believed to be by the bite of an asp, though some historians suggest poison. Either way, it was likely suicide. With her death, Egypt ceased to be an independent kingdom. It became a Roman province, and the Hellenistic era ended. Cleopatra's story has often been romanticized, portrayed as a seductress whose beauty shaped history. But that vastly oversimplifies her. She was a multilingual scholar, a skilled diplomat, a naval commander, and a political strategist, navigating one of the most dangerous eras in Mediterranean history. She ruled during the collapse of empires and tried fiercely to protect her nation's sovereignty. Cleopatra was not simply a romantic figure. She was the last pharaoh. And when she fell, an age ended with her. Lastly, we have Yousafzai. So Malala Yousafzai was born in 1997 in the Swat Valley of Pakistan, a region once known for its beauty and thriving schools. I'm sorry about that, guys. I got distracted by the dog, so pardon any distractions here. Her father was a teacher and school owner who believed deeply in education, especially for girls. From a young age, Malala loved learning. She dreamed of becoming a doctor. But when she was about 10 years old, the Taliban began taking control of her region. They banned music, they banned television, and they banned girls from attending school. Schools for girls were destroyed, and many families were afraid. However, Malala was not silent. At just 11 years old, she began writing a blog for the BBC under a pseudonym, which is like a pen name, describing life under Taliban rule. She wrote about her fear, but also about her determination to keep learning. She believed her education was her right, and she was willing to say so. Now, on October 9th, 2012, Malala was riding home from school on a bus when a Taliban gunman stopped it. He asked for her by name, and he shot her in the head. She was 15 years old. The attack was meant to silence her. Instead, it amplified her voice across the globe. Malala survived after emergency surgery in Pakistan and further treatment in the United Kingdom. The world watched her recovery. I remember this. World leaders condemned the attack. Millions began to repeat her name. When she regained her strength, she did not retreat. She did the opposite. She spoke louder. In 2013, she addressed the United Nations on her 16th birthday. Standing confidently, she declared, "One child, one teacher, one book, and one pen can change the world." Her voice was steady, her message was clear. Violence would never defeat education. In 2014, at age 17, Malala became the youngest person ever to receive the Nobel Peace Prize. She co-founded the Malala Fund, an organization working globally to ensure girls have access to 12 years of free, safe, quality education. She later graduated from Oxford University, fulfilling her own dream while continuing to fight for others. Malala often says she does not want to be known as, quote, the little girl who was shot. She wants to be known as, quote, the girl who fought for education. And she is. Her story reminds us that courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in spite of fear. A teenager with a blog challenged extremism. A student defended her right to learn. A young woman showed the world that education is not a privilege, it's power. So these are three amazing women from across the generations, right? So we look at these women and it might seem like their lives have nothing in common, right? They lived in different centuries, spoke different languages, faced different challenges, but that thread connects them all, right? Just like we've said in previous episodes. They each had the same courage. Each one faced a moment when the world said no, and each one said, watch me, I'm going to do it anyway. And they did. They didn't wait. They didn't think about what would happen down the road. They didn't think about how history would record them. They just did what they thought was right. Right? And history is not finished. So remember, you're living it right now. And you can still change things. So someone in this room, someone listening right now, might be the next name on that list. So the question is, when your moment comes, what will you do? Thanks, guys, for coming, and I hope we will see you at our next episode. I will see you soon. Bye.